So hello everyone and welcome to Anti-Gravity. This is me Satyam Shankar and you are watching the third video of our ongoing CSS grid series. Till now we have learned what are CSS grid, how to make a basic layout with them. In this video we will learn about how to make a layout using CSS grid areas and CSS grid template areas. So till then stay tuned. So here I am on my VS Code, and if you remember the last time in the second video we made this type of layout using the grid template rows and grid template columns of the CSS grid. Now to make the same layout using grid area, we will learn about it. So first of all, we have to understand what is a grid area. So I made a presentation about what is a grid area. Grid area is one or more grid cells that make up a rectangular area on the grid. Grid areas are created when you place an item using line-based placement or when defining areas using named grid areas. Now what that means? So it's basically telling that when one or more grid cells, like you can see that here was a grid cell, when one or more such grid cells form a rectangular type of area in the grid, it forms a CSS grid. So if you couldn't understand, I will show you a live example. As you can see that in our this, what do we say? In our this grid, this header thing, two, three grid cells made a rectangular piece of area in the grid. So this forms a grid area. This sidebar forms, this sidebar is made up of two cells, and hence this also forms a grid area. So I hope you have understood about what is a grid area. So when two or more cells form a rectangular area on the grid, it is known as a grid area. So we can make these grid areas using a function as described using named grid areas. So now explore what is a grid area. So now if I open my CSS file here, and you could see that, let me delete the last time what we did. So only commenting it will be good. So now to be able to define them using the grid area, we have to first of all we have to first of all give each of our child items a grid area, a value of the grid area attribute. So basically I'm telling you to just give the grid area of basically each item of the grid. So I'm basically, it doesn't mean anything, it doesn't mean that I am giving it just a name. For now you have to understand that just as of now I am giving it a name of header. I am now giving this navigation bar a name of a nav. I'm giving this S bar a name of, let's say, only S bar only. S bar. I am giving this adds a grid area of, let's say, adds only. And the last, and this I'm giving the main also of main, and the footer also the name of footer only. So now basically I have not done anything, I have just assigned them a name for your understanding. So now what, oh sorry, so now we have given them a name. Now how to show them in a good layout? So first of all, we have to just make grid template areas. So I hope you have understood that we have designed the grid area of each item in our grid. So basically now using the name of the grid area of each item, we can make this type of layout. So practically I will show, then I will explain to you. So header, you can see that as soon as I wrote header, my header item came and spanned whole of the first row. Now let me just, for your understanding only, nav anything I'm just giving you. It's S bar adds, and last and not least, footer main, anything I'm giving you. Now, as you could see that as soon as I wrote this statement, all of my items by default they are arranged in the grid. Now, how did I do this? So I just gave them a grid area, a name of a header. Now using this grid template areas, I am telling CSS that I have made 4 rows and 3 columns, and I'm just telling CSS to just display them as mentioned in the grid template area. So in the grid template areas, I have mentioned 1, 2, 3 and 4 rows and 1, 2, 3 column. Make sure that the rows mentioned and the columns mentioned are exact same. So I have just told CSS that in my each row and my each column, what should you show? So I am telling that in the first row, show header only. In the second row, show nav only. In the third row, show first S bar, then again S bar, then adds. And the last row, show footer, footer, and then main. So I will show you here also. As you could see that I am basically created a grid area here. So in my header, I have my header is now spanning all the 3 columns. So it has made itself a grid area of a grid area which consists of 3 cells, 1, 2, 3. Have you understood? I hope you have understood. So to recap it, I'm just telling my grid template areas to arrange my grid areas, my grid items basically in that manner as I am mentioning in this thing. So I am telling grid template areas that in my first row I want just header, header, header. In the second row nav, nav, nav. Then S bar adds, footer, footer, main. And make sure that the rows and the columns are as same as you have mentioned. As like if you will make any error here, it will be, you can see that a problem will be there. So always try to do like this only. Now let's just try to make this layout. Now as you could see that here the header is the first, here also the header is the first, then the navigation, then the navigation, and then the main, then sidebar, ads, and footer. As I've told you that when I'm doing this and doing this, it is looking differently because I have made them responsive, which we will learn in the next video of our CSS Grid series. In this video, we will only learn about how can we make this type of layout using CSS Grid area. So now as you could see that first is the header. So first is the header and we have also made the header first. Then I have the sidebar in my first column. To make things easier, I'm making it a grid. So let's see that I have sidebar in my first column. Then I have navigation. So I have sidebar, then I have navigation, then I have ads. I will just make things, I will just show you a good layout because let's see. So here, first row, second row, third row, and fourth row. First column, second column, third column. So as you could see that the header, as I've told you, it is taking up the full space of the first row. So the header here will take up the full space of the first row, and then S bar, navigation, ads, S bar, main ads. So here I want S bar, main ads. Then the last column, what do I want? Footer. In the last column, I want all the items to be footer. Footer, footer, and footer. You could see that I have made this. So basically, this was a little bit confusing. So I'm just telling what did I did. So what did I did? I just told my CSS grid to just place my items as I mentioned in the grid areas. So as in my template, my header is taking up the full row. I told my CSS file to execute to give header the full first row. The full 3 columns give it to the header items. Then in my second row, I want to give the first column to sidebar, second column to navigation, and the third column to ads, as I did here. And then next, I also want sidebar, main, and then ads. Sidebar, main, and then ad, and the last one I want footer. So I hope this is clear, and I would suggest you to try some layout by your own before in the next video. We will learn about how to make this responsive, how to make it like this, that when we resize it, it changes. So in the next video we'll learn about it. Till then, subscribe us and stay tuned.